From measles to smallpox to the common cold, diseases have plagued us since the dawn of time, giving us the option to either adapt or perish. But what are diseases like in the magical land of Equestria? I'm Finn the Pony, and this is Equestrian in a nutshell. As someone who's currently working towards a medical license, I can easily say that I've always been intrigued by diseases. Seeing the complex and intricate ways that the human body can malfunction fascinates me to no end. So it should come as no surprise that I love seeing the unique diseases that writers of fiction come up with. The supernatural causes, the unique cures, the surreal effects the disease can have on the body. I eat that stuff up like candy. Since MLP is one of my favorite shows and we have 4 full seasons of material to work with, I wanted to see what unique diseases the writers of MLP have conjured up. So I'm dedicating my first Equestria in a Nutshell segment to talking about Equestrian disease. To start things off, let's begin with episodic evidence, where I go through every episode of the show and try to find as many examples of our current topic as possible. So let's see what we got. Let's start things off right with Applebuck season. Hands down, AJ's best episode to date. An episode jam-packed with so many memorable things like great comedy, an entertaining setup, an incredibly relatable moral, and food poisoning. Yep, after sleep-deprived AJ screws up the needed ingredients for Pinky's muffins, we get to see a whole hospital room full of ponies suffering from what I can only assume is food poisoning, based on their green faces and extensive nausea. Since food poisoning is caused by infectious organisms that enter the body through contaminated food, I'm pretty sure those earthworms that AJ dug up were the main cause of this, since a simple chip, lemon, and soda muffin probably wouldn't cause anything worse than an upset stomach or very mild indigestion, not to mention a really awkward taste in your mouth. Though, do you notice something missing from this hospital scene? Yeah, what happened to Derpy? She was there at the free sample giveaway. Maybe the muffins actually sat well with her? I mean, Spike was eating them at the end and he didn't seem to have a problem. I guess some Ponyville residents just have stronger stomachs than others. Well, I guess it's worth a shot. That's just not that bad. Kind of reminds me of peanut butter pear pizza. Don't knock it till you try it. And now we have what many bronies consider to be one of the worst episodes of Season 1 and even the series as a whole, Bridal Gossip. But is it bad that I kind of like it? Okay, I know the moral is obvious, I know the stereotypes are blatant, I know Evil Enchantress is one of the most annoying songs in the entire series, but I can easily look past those things since Bridal Gossip actually has a fair amount of good in it. The comedy is great, we get introduced to one of my favorite side characters in the show, and we get one of my favorite fictional diseases in recent memory, Poison Joe. When it comes to any kind of disease, the more things that are explained, the more interesting it becomes. Diseases as a whole contain 3 major parts: the cause, the effect, and the cure. And luckily we get to see all 3 major points of this awesome affliction explained and demonstrated in all their glory. From what we've seen, Poison Joke is a disease caused by coming in contact with blue flowers of the same name located in the Everfree Forest. After approximately a day, give or take a few hours, the effects start to show their ugly faces. The effects can be vastly different for any pony and seem to alter the feature of the pony that relates most to their personality or special talents. Rarity ends up getting incredibly long and messy mane, playing on the idea for obvious vanity. Dashie gets inverted wings that mess up her amazing flying. Pinky, who's incredibly talkative and loves to sing, ends up getting a swelled tongue. Fluttershy's sweet and calming voice that's helped her subdue many a creature is replaced with a dude's voice. Applejack significantly shrinks in size. I guess because she's like a big sister to everyone, so they made it so that she wouldn't be too big anymore. And of course, the almighty magical Twilight ends up with a suggestive looking floppy horn, rendering her magic abilities null and void. At least, I think that's what happened. It's kind of inconsistent, since after she wakes up, she clearly levitates her hairbrush before we see her horn, and yet she performs no other magic throughout the rest of the episode while her horn is like that. So, did the joke take effect as soon as she brushed her mane aside? Can she still do magic, but just not as well as before? Did the joke change the look of her horn and not affect her magical output at all? My brain hurts, let's just move on. And lastly, we have the cure, which is simply taking an herbal bath. That gives us closure for each joke in the episode, as well as a satisfying ending. And there we have an ingenious idea for a fictional disease explained in its entirety. Not much else to say except, more please, I'm loving this. And that's no joke. Oh, come on, that was funny. Winter wrap up, really good episode overall. Yeah, even when you take out the incredibly catchy song that's basically a staple in Brony subscriber specials now, Winter Wrap Up is a really fun episode. And here we see that one of the most common ailments ever known isn't exactly foreign to the land of Equestria, the common cold. After we see that Spike fell asleep on a piece of ice in the middle of the lake, it cuts to him later sick in Twilight's house, sneezing and all. I don't really think I need to explain how a cold works. Overexposure to cold temperatures and or viral infections in the respiratory tract causes congestion and sneezing, yada yada yada. We've all seen it and I think we've all had it. There's not really much out of the ordinary here.
I mean, except for a small spurt of fire, there's really nothing about Spike's sneezes that are out of the ordinary.
Well, then again, he is just a baby dragon. God knows what can happen when he grows up. More? Having a unique disease isn't enough for you? How about having said disease be the title of the dang episode? Yep, up next is the cutie pox. The general consensus is that this episode is just kinda meh. And yeah, I can kinda see where people are coming from, I guess. But one thing I can give this episode credit for is a pretty interesting disease. As described in Perplexing Pony Plagues, the cutie pox is, and I quote, a puzzling pony plague that has afflicted a population of ponies back in the Pelopolony period. Several random cutie marks appeared all over the ponies' bodies, causing them to be forced to perform without stopping all the talents that came with them. The cause of the breakout was never discovered, and the cutie marks disappeared as mysteriously as they arrived. Sounds self-explanatory enough. A pony accumulates multiple cutie marks over time and is forced to perform every talent they represent. Gee, I would hate to see one of my buddies go through that. Well, unless you were a little tight on cash. What? Hey, I know it's a disease, but if you think about it, it could also be the ultimate moneymaker. I'm sure anybody who can hula hoop, spin plates, tap dance, and speak French at the same time is sure to attract some kind of audience. So you would let some innocent pony suffer from a rare disease in front of a crowd just to rake in the dough? I don't think of it as suffering. Think of it as a win-win situation. They get multiple talents with no training needed, and I get to buy my solid gold bathtub. Everyone wins. Get lost, tightwad. And I'm not paying for this orange! Anyway, despite the book's assurance that there's no known cure, surprise! Zecora has a cure. Zebra X Machina, anybody? The cure is found in the flower that blooms from the seeds of truth. And obviously the only way to get the flower to bloom is to tell the truth. So Apple Bloom does just that, eats the resulting flower, and is finally cured of the cutie pox. Similar to bridal gossip, the best part about this episode is the disease. And while it would have been nice to know the unknown cause mentioned in Twilight's book, what we got was interesting enough on its own. We also got a few mentioned diseases while Twilight was flipping through the book, like hay fever. Get it? Ponies eat hay. Hay fever. And the trots, which I can only guess is the pony equivalent of the runs. Not a pleasant experience, trust me. Overall, thumbs up to you writers for another interesting illness. It would have been nice to know what the original cause of the epidemic was, but hey, what we got was fine with me. I know I sure as hell won't be brewing any cutie mark enhancement potions. Mine is fine just the way it is, and it's the true representation of who I am. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you guys the story of how I got it yet. Well, it all started with... Read It and Weep, the episodic holder of the classic Don't Knock It Till You Try It more. A moral that I'm proud to say I've followed on numerous occasions. Even though a majority of it just takes place in a hospital room, it's one of my personal favorite Dashi outings in the whole series. But wait a minute. The main medical issue in this episode is an injured wing. It's not a disease, so what's this episode doing here? Well, I'll tell you. This pony. Once Rainbow escapes the hospital after stealing the book she wanted to finish, the staff chases after her, with what seems to be a dog running alongside them based on this barking you hear. Once they finally catch up to her, we see that the barking was actually caused by this pony. The doctor tells her to immediately get back to the hospital, implying that she's a patient there. So from her appearance and the fact that she was barking like a dog despite being a pony, I think that might be a hint towards the idea of full-on mental insanity in Equestria. I mean, think about it. Can you think of any other reason she'd be acting like that? Is there some kind of equestrian dog disease I know nothing about? I mean, we saw Big Mac acting like a dog in Return of Harmony, but that was just due to Discord screwing with him. So from what I've seen, I actually do think that full-on mental insanity could be a reality in Equestria. And by full-on, I mean mental insanity that needs medical treatment. We've seen mental breaks in MLP before, but the ponies with them always end up perfectly fine by the episode's end with no professional help necessary. This pony, however, requires hospitalization, a straitjacket, and a team of doctors keeping her in check, meaning that this is certainly not a minor case that'll just be gone in a short while. So now that full-on mental insanity is canon, does that mean we'll also be seeing corpse resurrection, heavy drug use, and foreign enslavement in future episodes? Only time will tell, I guess. Alright, I'm just gonna get this over with now.
You're my cutie patootie lovey-dovey honey bunny.
You're my hearty smarty smirky roofy baby lady.
Yeah, there's a lot of that talking Hearts and Hooves Day. But mushy-gushy bullshit aside, this episode is actually pretty solid overall. Not much to talk about in the ways of disease, except that we do see the return of the common cold with this one stallion in the song The Perfect Stallion. There's also the love poisoning, but I think counting a magical manipulation over the mind of an individual as a disease would be kind of a stretch. I will say, it makes great shipper fuel, though. Hey, I got special drinks for Josh and Ink! No! No words. My feelings for this masterpiece will be exclusive to my eventual review only. All I'm going to talk about are the diseases, one of which is the feather flu. On the day of the big rainwater return, and the day the Rainbow hopes to break the wind speed record, 8 of the Pegasi that were supposed to show up end up contracting the feather flu. Not much is said about this one, though it's apparently bad enough to require medical attention at a hospital, and one of the visible signs is coughing. There's also a scene where Fluttershy tries to get Rainbow off her back by pretending to have the ponypox. Her quote-unquote symptoms include sneezing, coughing, and spots all over her body, and the apparent cure that Fluttershy hints at is plenty of bed rest. And not much else to say about that either. Yeah, this is an episode where the diseases are basically the least interesting part about it. Wanna know what the really interesting parts are? Finn! No! You promised to save it for the review. But it's so good! Dude, calm yourself. The time will come eventually. Fine. Hey, it's my first Faveless Topper. I think most of you already know my feelings on this one, so I'll spare you the details. When it comes to diseases, there is a subtle little hint provided by AJ in the second half.
Listen here, you rabid rhododendrons!
So, rabies are part of the MLP canon? That's a little scary. I mean, imagine if an outbreak took place. Imagine animals like Winona contracting the disease where the only option would be to put her down. Don't get me wrong, that would be a good way to teach a lesson about dealing with the death of a loved one, but I doubt it'll ever happen on this show. Let's just hope that the idea of rabies in Equestria is kept to that minuscule hint alone, shall we? Oh yeah! Three's a crowd, bitch! Can't go wrong with a Discord episode, am I right? Once again, I'll save the deets for the full review since I have a lot to say about this awesomeness. But one thing I won't spare is obviously this episode's afflictions, of which there are 2. The first is the one that sends this episode's plot into motion, which is the blue flu. Discord first shows up in the episode already inflicted with this odd ailment. As expected, his body is completely blue when he has it, and similar to the real flu, it causes him to do things such as sneeze. And of course, the sneezing spreads a little chaos around each time, for obvious reasons. As far as cures go, Discord says that the only thing that can cure him is
an exquisite magic flower. Pick the flower as it drops its petals at sunset. Then you can make a magical soothing elixir to cure the blue flu.
Yeah, what he said. But when Cadence and Twilight try to get the cure for Discord, guess what they find out?
You were faking!
I was!
Yep, Discord being the troll that he is was actually faking the whole time, which means everything revolving around the blue flu was just a facade. The constant sneezing, the blue body color, the fact that Rarity and Applejack were infected within seconds of him sneezing on them. Wait a second, how could Rarity and AJ contract that disease if it's not even real? Does Discord just have the power to make ponies sick at will? If that's the case, why doesn't he use this power more often? I mean, if he really wanted to take over again, all he'd have to do was secretly give the main 6 and the princesses some kind of terminal illness and boom! Equestria's yours again, bro! Oh well. The second disease comes from a scene towards the end where the large sandworm creature, which I heard was called the tatzelworm by the way, sneezes on Discord. Not much I can say about this disease, except that it causes him to turn green, break out into spots, and become bedridden and placed in an isolation bubble by the episode's end. Jeez, I hope Silvercoat took a shower after touching that thing. Discord also mentioned that he fears that he had the croup during glass of water. And for those who don't know, a croup is a respiratory condition caused by viral infection that involves difficulty breathing and a cough that resembles the barking of a seal. Hey, wouldn't it be funny if after Discord mentioned the croup, he turned into a seal for a second? I mean, he's chewing the scenery enough as it is, why not do it some more, right? So yeah, really fun episode, but the main disease it focused on was a little confusing. Whew, that was a mouthful. I would think I need a glass of water. Oh, sweet! Alright, next up is... What the hell happened to me? That's not funny, Discord! Put my head back right...
Hilarious!
Okay, long story short, Poison Joe comes back, thought I gotta get some musical numbers, and unfortunately Pinky's nowhere to be found in this episode, so let's move on. What? What are you talking about, man? She's in like half the episode. Moving on! So, wait a second. This is an Applejack episode, starring her family, with a good moral, and the return of Flim and Flam? Shut up and take my bits! Yeah, this was an episode that I was really looking forward to, and let me tell you folks, it did not disappoint. Considering that this episode focuses on the idea of the placebo effect, and the fact that this part of the episode looks like a trail for the Carving Dead, I think it's pretty obvious that there are going to be some afflictions mentioned in this one. Hell, the majority of Flim and Flam's song in this is just them listing off diseases. Just listen.
It cures the reins, the spurs, and the Clydesdale fur blight. Marianne Horsenterry cured in just a night. You've got swollen hooves and hindquarters are terrible bridle bit cleft. Saunter sits and gallop plop or give your tail some heft. Mane loss, hay fever, or terrible tonsillitis.
What was the one before
This
that?
is the only place in all of Equestria you'll find it.
So yeah, just from this song alone, our disease total just went through the roof. We don't really get much detail on them though. We're really just told the name and given a visual. There are some that we could recognize, like swelling and tonsillitis, some of which we could equate to real-life diseases like horsenterry, which is obviously dysentery, and those that are completely new, like sauntersits, which involve short hind legs, and the reins, which apparently causes the tongue to become blue and infected. Once again, there's not much in terms of explanation, but dang, with such a wide range of diseases, the brothers probably could have made an equestrian-wide fortune if that tonic was real. Man, after listening to that song, I realized that there are still a ton of diseases out there that I know next to nothing about. I should really do some more heavy research if I'm going to be treating patients for a living. Hey Jeremy, my connection's shot. Could you look up HIV for me? Sure, bro. How do you spell HIV? And there you have it. Every instance of disease and MOP that I could find. I'll say we've got quite a unique and varied list here. Who would have thought that seeing all the possible ways that the pony body can malfunction would be so interesting? So, usually the second segment would be topics of interest, which is where I would answer fan questions based on what we went over in the previous episode. But since this is the first episode, we're gonna skip that this time and move straight to closing thoughts. So from what we've seen, equestrian diseases can be divided into 4 main categories. Category A involves diseases that we're already familiar with, such as food poisoning and the common cold. Category B contains diseases that are most likely identical to the ones we know, just with different names. Category C has diseases that are unique to the land of Equestria, but are not 100% explained, like the reins and the feather flu. And then Category D contains Poison Joke and the Cutie Pox, 2 original diseases where everything about them is completely explained. I'll admit, after going through the whole series again, I found a really rich palette of pony plagues that would definitely make me want to pick up an equestrian medical book and see what other odd ailments Equestria has to offer. But I don't think we'll ever truly get the in-depth illness info I'm hoping for, since I'm pretty sure an episode where one of the main 6 goes to medical school is out of the question. Too bad for that. But overall, it seems like Equestria contains not only unique fictional diseases, but also some actual real-life ones as well. And interestingly enough, I think the way the diseases are presented in this show is actually a pretty accurate representation of the series as a whole. On one hand, you've got the creative fantasy diseases, which make for some creative storylines and increase the overall depth of the world, and on the other hand, you've got the genuine real-life afflictions that a majority of us have heard of or even had in our lifetime, so we can easily relate to others that have them. And overall, that's exactly what MLP is. It's a show that's able to present such spectacular ideas and concepts, with the only limit being the writer's imaginations, and of course the pre-established rules of the world, but no matter what amazing things they come up with, the ability of the audience to relate to the main characters never goes away. Yeah, they're magical talking horses, but they still have dilemmas and personal faults that a lot of people can relate to and understand. We see them live, we see them learn, we see them succeed, we see them fail. All the while realizing that even though this takes place in a fantasy world, the day-to-day conflicts of the characters can be equated to ours in real life. So similar to the way that the diseases in this show have found a perfect balance between creativity and relatability, I feel that the show has as well. And even if the palette of equestrian play stops growing at this point, I can rest easy knowing that the writers will always be ready with fresh ideas, but will keep the true magic of what makes the show great close to their hearts. Got a question about today's topic, or maybe something else about the topic that you think warrants discussion? Feel free to leave it in the comments below, and maybe it'll show up next time in Topics of Interest. I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. And remember, diseases are no laughing matter. Unless it's poison joke, in which case it's probably hilarious.
Help! Burglar! Burglar! Someone's trying to steal my slippers!
I'm not trying to steal your slippers.
Nah, they couldn't be implying that. I'm probably overthinking it.